From survival to choice, I still remember that winter, child. The kind of winter that doesn't just freeze the land, it freezes hope. Temüjin had survived his childhood. He had escaped slavery, hunger, and betrayal. But survival is only the first test. Now life was preparing a harder question. The boy was no longer running. By the banks of the Onon River, Temüjin stood watching the tribes move like restless shadows. Every clan had its own fire, its own pride, its own old grudges, and every one of them believed power belonged only to noble blood. Temüjin believed something else. He had learned in pain that loyalty bought with fear never lasts, that men who are treated like brothers fight like brothers. This idea made him dangerous and alone. Word began to spread quietly, not loud enough to start a war, but sharp enough to worry the elders. He gathers followers without lineage. He rewards loyalty, not birth. He breaks the old order. And with every whisper, a storm was forming. Some nights, Temüjin remembered the promise made long ago, a promise of brotherhood, sworn in youth, sealed with blood and trust. Jamukha. At this moment, they were still brothers in memory, but history was already sharpening its knives. Phase 1 was about staying alive. Phase 2 would be about choosing what kind of leader the world would remember. And child, once a man chooses this path, the step back disappears forever. A storm had begun, quietly. Brother of the blue wolf, Jamukha. Even now, when I speak his name, the wind seems to listen. He was not born like Temüjin. Jamukha was raised among silk tents and respected elders. From childhood, people stepped aside when he walked. Power came to him the way the sky comes to birds, naturally. When Jamukha returned to the steppe, the tribes welcomed him like a long-lost heir. Noble blood ran in his veins, and the old laws favored him. To many, he already looked like a future ruler, and yet, his path crossed Temüjin again. They met not as enemies, not yet. They shared food. They spoke of the old days, of hunting together, of blood oaths sworn under the open sky. For a moment, the past felt alive. But child, two men can share memories and still walk toward different futures. Jamukha believed order must be preserved, that nobles should rule and common men should obey. The steppe to him was a hierarchy, strong at the top, silent at the bottom. Temüjin listened and said little, because his followers were different. They were shepherds, escaped slaves, broken men, people Jamukha would never call equals. Jamukha noticed this. So did the tribes. Slowly, camps began choosing sides, not with weapons, not yet, but with whispers and looks. Brotherhood was still spoken aloud, but rivalry had already taken root. And I remember thinking then, child, when two leaders rise from the same fire, one of them will eventually burn. The steppe was no longer watching two brothers. It was waiting to see which belief would survive. Now listen carefully, child, because this battle was fought without swords. After Jamukha and Temüjin parted ways, the steppe felt different. No arrows flew, yet tension traveled faster than horses. Men sat by fires pretending to laugh, but their eyes kept searching the dark. Jamukha spoke openly now. He reminded the tribes of old laws, that leadership belonged to noble blood, not broken men. To him, order meant survival, a world where everyone knew their place. Many elders nodded. That was the world they understood. Temüjin did not argue in councils. He spoke to people instead. He shared meat equally. He rewarded loyalty, not lineage. A man who fought well stood beside a man born well. For the first time, common warriors felt seen, and that frightened the old leaders. Whispers spread like smoke. Temüjin wants to change the steppe. Jamukha wants to control it. Soon, camps stopped sharing grazing lands. Hunting parties avoided each other. Marriages were delayed. Friendships grew cautious. The steppe itself felt divided. Jamukha gathered nobles around him. Temüjin gathered survivors. Both believed they were saving their people. Both believed the other was dangerous. Child, This is how civil wars are born, not from hatred, but from two visions that cannot exist together. By the time the first arrow would fly, the war had already been decided in the hearts of men, and the steppe, old and patient, prepared to drink blood once again. This was the moment, child, when silence finally broke. After weeks of whispers, the tribes could no longer stand in the middle. The steppe does not forget hesitation. You choose, or you are crushed. Messengers rode day and night. Banners were raised, then quietly lowered. Some camps moved closer to Jamukha, drawn by noble blood and old traditions. They believed order lived with him. Others drifted toward Temüjin, not because he was powerful, but because he was familiar. He ate what they ate. He slept among them. He remembered names, faces, favors. A shepherd's son could speak freely in his camp. That was new and dangerous. Families argued by firelight. Brothers chose different leaders. Old friendships cracked under loyalty. Jamukha watched these movements with calm pride. To him, this was natural law returning to its place. The strong leading the strong. Temüjin felt the weight differently. Every new follower meant another life depending on his decisions. He began to understand leadership was not glory, it was burden. The steppe slowly split in two colors, not drawn on maps but felt in the air. Hunting grounds turned hostile. Shared rivers became borders. And child, remember this. Once tribes choose sides, peace becomes a memory. From this point forward, there would be no return to brotherhood. Only victory or erasure. The first civil war. Listen closely, this was no sudden war. It crept in quietly, like frost before winter. The first clash did not begin with drums or banners. It began with stolen horses, a night raid, a single scream swallowed by the wind. By morning, blood had touched the steppe. Small skirmishes followed, fast, brutal, personal. Men fought cousins. Arrows were loosed by hands that once shared food. Those songs were sung for the dead. There was no time. Jamukha struck first, and he struck hard. His warriors moved with discipline, born of old noble training. They attacked swiftly, leaving fear behind them like smoke. This was how wars were meant to be fought, or so he believed. Temüjin's side suffered. His followers were brave but uneven. Farmers stood beside hunters, shepherds beside exiles. They had heart, but little order. Temüjin watched every loss carefully. He did not rage, he did not boast. He learned. He noticed which men stood firm, which fled, which returned despite fear. The steppe had fully ignited now. No tribe could pretend neutrality. The air smelled of iron and ash. Every sunrise promised more death. And in the distance, Jamukha smiled. To him, this was proof. Blood would remind the people who deserved to rule. But child, war has a way of teaching lessons no noble is ready to learn. The day Temüjin fell, this day still aches in old bones. This was the day Temüjin learned how small he truly was. The battle began at dawn. Mist clung to the grass like fear refusing to leave. Temüjin stood among his men, fewer than before, tired, hungry, but loyal. Across the field, Jamukha's army waited. Larger, sharper, confident. When the clash came, it was merciless. Jamukha's warriors moved as one body. Their arrows darkened the sky. Their cavalry struck like a hammer. Temüjin's lines bent, then broke. Men panicked. Orders vanished in noise and dust. Some fled. Some died where they stood. Others were cut down while trying to retreat. Temüjin fought like a cornered wolf, not for victory, for survival. By sunset, the steppe was silent again, too silent. Bodies lay scattered like broken promises. The wind carried the cries of the wounded far into the hills. Temüjin's army was shattered. He escaped, barely. With a handful of survivors, he hid among reeds and ravines, watching smoke rise from what once was hope. That night, he did not curse Jamukha. He did not curse fate. He cursed ignorance. He realized something painful, child. Bravery without structure is slaughter. Loyalty without order is death. This defeat did not end Temüjin. It stripped him down so he could rebuild